Unrepentant, Cypher waited outside the headmaster's office with her arms folded across her chest. A young man with raging pink hair emerged and scowled at her. "You're going to get it now, Cypher McCall." "Is that so?" Her eyes narrowed. "Looks like you already got it." She shot to her feet. "Better scat before I light your whole head on fire." When she lifted one eyebrow, the pink-haired teen darted off, speeding down the empty corridor without a backward glance. "Miss McCall?" Headmaster Owens appeared in the doorway. "We're ready for you." We? She'd thought her meeting would be with the headmaster alone. If other teachers were involved, clearly her disagreement with Will Babcock had landed her in far greater trouble than she'd anticipated. Her mouth went dry from fear, but she swallowed hard, lifted her chin, and sailed into the room like a queen. After a regal nod to the faculty members assembled there, she lowered herself into the one empty chair up front. The headmaster closed the door and settled behind his desk. "Let's get started then, shall we?" Faced with the prospect of being expelled, Cypher's poise crumbled. "First of all, Will deserved it. He's a—" "We understand." The headmaster raised his hand to staunch the avalanche of words. "That's not why you're here." She was taken aback. "It's not?" "No, not exactly." The expressions of the men and women surrounding Cypher reflected concern, not anger. Well, all except for the history teacher, Mr. Finstermaker. He'd always regarded her with disapproval, if not outright disdain. Puzzled, she waited for someone to speak. Her homeroom teacher, Miss Dreary, cleared her throat. "We appreciate that you're, well, different, Cypher." "Odd, I dare say," Mr. Finstermaker mumbled. "Not odd at all, Mr. Finstermaker. Whimsical is more like it." Mr. Corn's voice sounded almost as melodic as the musical instruments he taught his pupils to play. Heads nodded in agreement, except for the history teacher. "Yes, whimsical," Headmaster Owens said. "And while we don't mind, you understand, your tendencies might be seen by some as, dangerous." Most of the teachers nodded again, making noises of assent. "Possibly even subversive," Mr. Finstermaker added. Cypher's gaze slid to the detested dark blue Cauldian flag hanging in the corner. "This is about the invaders, isn't it?" From the general reaction, her use of the word invaders was less welcome than a swarm of hungry gnats. The headmaster called for everyone to stay calm. Mr. Finstermaker puffed up like an angry chicken. "What did I tell you? She'll bring disaster to Plentiful Academy." Headmaster Owen gave the history teacher a quelling glance. "That's not helpful," he sighed. "Cypher, the Cauldians view whimsical tendencies in a poor light. I must ask you not to express yourself here at school anymore, or you'll be expelled." Mr. Finstermaker finished the thought. "You can't expel me," Cypher frowned. "I've only a few more days until graduation." Miss Dreary's smile was sweet and encouraging. "So it shouldn't be too difficult to contain yourself for that long, should it?" Cypher dropped her eyes to the white porcelain cherub sitting on the headmaster's desk. "I suppose not." She rose. "But make no mistake, I'll never accept Cauldians as the rightful rulers of Augury." After Cypher left the office, Headmaster Owens produced a linen handkerchief and mopped his brow. "I'm not sure the young lady really understands what's at stake." "How could she?" the history teacher snapped. "At 18, her head is full of rebellion, mischief and boys." "You don't know Cypher very well," Mrs. Rain said. "She's one of the more level-headed girls I've ever had in my class. Furthermore, she's not so terribly unusual where magic is concerned," Mr. Corn pointed out. "Jenny Franklin over at the poultry farm is whimsical too. She can enchant a rooster to whistle a tune if you ask her nicely." "That's true," said Miss Dreary. "I've heard it." "Yes, and Horace Strullen can make his dog, Bones, do amazing tricks." Mrs. Rain frowned. "Although, maybe that's not strictly magical." The headmaster glanced at each teacher in turn. "Truth be told, almost everyone in Augury can do a small bit of magic to one extent or another." Mr. Finstermaker shook his head emphatically. "Not I." "Nonsense," Miss Dreary retorted. "It's in your blood, whether you want to admit it or not." "I admit nothing, and you should expel Cypher McCall, headmaster. You've got the perfect pretext, what with her attack on Will Babcock."